Hello, I'm David Evans. I'm the Workforce Management Consultant for Business Systems. And today I'm going to be talking to you about forecasting in workforce management and how to maximize accuracy. So in workforce management, it's possible to create very accurate forecasts, but it does require some solid preparation work and getting the basic assumptions agreed at the outset. So workforce management can forecast against different objectives for different contact types. So it's imperative that you set these out and make sure everyone understands what the key objectives are. Now this is obviously dependent on what type of contacts you're forecasting for. So when I worked as a retail planner, we used average speed of answer because every call was potentially a sales call driving revenue into the business. When I worked in financial services, I dealt with outsourcers. So I worked with an occupancy objective, i.e. I wanted to make sure the team were occupied to an agreed level as we were paying per FTE, i.e. full-time equivalent, per hour. Now if you work with back office, the objectives are different again. So there's a different calculation to work out the forecast requirements. The key point here though is whatever method of working out the requirements is make sure they're transparent to all so they can understand what the implications are. You also need to think about the parameters for your forecast in workforce management itself. So are the handle times correct and representative? And are you looking to add in weightings to the forecast based on the current business conditions? Are you in a seasonal business? So do you need to think about what was happening in the same period last year? Or do you need to build up a peak season? And do you have a quiet period? You may have some extreme values you either want to exclude or include into your forecasting just to make sure it's representative. Now your workforce management product should have all this contained in its historical profiles. So make sure you are setting up the parameters to accurately reflect the forecasting period. The other key point is to agree with the business, well, what is accuracy? Accuracy could be based on daily, weekly, intraday. There are different ways of measuring it. So I found initially when I was in a planning role, I was measured on daily accuracy. But once I got within a target level, it was then amended to intraday periods where I was measured against each interval. You may be looking at things like mean average percentage error. And this way it takes into account the periods when you're over forecast or under forecast to give you a true reflection of your accuracy. I'm now going to talk through 3 basic types of forecasting using workforce management and show how they can help to improve accuracy. The first type is what we call time series. Now this is a method that uses the historical data over a given period to estimate future demand. Now, without trying to get too technical here, in its simplest form, a time series is a collection of data points obtained through repetitive measurements over time. Now, the good news is your workforce management application is collecting this information and starting to build your profile. So you will have details on historical data, often going back many years, some seasonality information, and the ability to weight your forecast to show trends. So your product will have an algorithm built in for forecasting based on the historical profiles, but you can tweak this to include the seasonality, add in the most recent trends, and soon you will improve accuracy. The second type of forecasting you have in workforce management that can help you achieve accuracy is what we call causal, i.e. it's cause and effect. So again, in simple terms, there is a relationship between an event and demand being driven into the business. So when I was working as a retail workforce management planner, the weather had a big impact on the call arrival pattern. So for the first sunny weekend of the year, meant I knew it would be busy on the following morning with sales of shorts and bikinis. In financial services, we used to place adverts in the Sunday papers for savings accounts and ISAs. So again, on a Monday morning, I knew there would be a response to that and a big uplift in contacts. And when I worked in telecoms, if a farmer was plowing a field and went through a cable, I know it meant lots of calls requesting service status. So the beauty of workforce management is you can start to build a collection of these special events through something called special patterns. So not only is this the actual volume of contacts coming in, but it is the distribution received across the day, which will be different to a normal day. So you will use these all of the time for your bank holidays, your adverts, your weather-related, and in conjunction with your time series, you can start to build accuracy. The third part of forecasting and workforce management accuracy is what I call insider knowledge. Now, as you probably gather, I love workforce management tools, but they're not so good. You can just sit back, press a button, and hey presto, you've got an accurate forecast. You need to tune and hone your forecast to maximize accuracy. So there is definitely a mix of the science and the art, and you need a bit of nous. So as a planner, you will have an in-depth knowledge of the contact center, the arrival patterns, the busy times of year, but you will also need to build a team of what I call trusted advisors from other parts of the business that can provide you with insight and keep you informed of anything that might impact on volumes. So one of the first things I used to do when I went to a new planning role was to sit down with all the key areas of the business and look what may impact on volumes. From this, I would create a strategic planner for all the key events, such as mailings, product launches, recruitment profiles. And this meant there would be no surprises, no unforeseen events, and I could then build this into my workforce management application. So I would strongly recommend, if you're in a planning role, to get very friendly with your marketing team, your finance team, your customer insight team, your product team, your HR team, any area that might be able to give you some insight. Also, if you're in a planning role, you can also improve the accuracy of forecasting by managing and planning your shrinkage effectively. Now, shrinkage is the percentage of paid time an employee is not available to take a contact. So that'll be things like holidays, lunches, or sickness. So by managing your holidays more effectively, it will mean you're able to build this into your forecasting. So this ideally needs to be phased across the forecast period to maximize resource availability in busy times and release resource in the quieter periods. You can also use your workforce management to measure the agent attrition, i.e. how many people are leaving, and build this into your forecasts. So if you know there's a period when churn is high, this needs to be reflected in your long-term budgets. I know it's a bit naughty, but I worked in a company and we ensured that the bonus was paid in a quiet period, as we often found people were leaving just after receiving the bonus. So we were able to build that into our forecast to make it more accurate. So I would suggest you work closely with your training department to make sure anything training related is also factored in to help improve the accuracy again. Finally, try and be creative with forecasting. Your workforce management product will have a what-if scenario planning option, and these are normally very quick and easy to use. So if you have a product launch coming up, provide a few different scenarios and decide what is the most realistic. I used to use what-if scenario planning all the time for forecasting, particularly for creating shift patterns for recruitment purposes. You may be forecasting for a statement drop, so you can look at the options of moving the dates, working out how many statements will be delivered on each day, and how quickly the customers will respond. Now, the benefit of workforce management is you'll be able to look at the historical profiles, the special patterns you've saved from the previous year, and take advantage of the business knowledge. So you can have all three elements working together. Now, however you're forecasting, it's still a technology, and it is accurate, but to really maximize accuracy, it still needs the end user to guide it and give it the human touch. Well, I hope that's been useful today. Well, I hope that's been useful for you today. If you do have any further questions, either contact me on my details as shown or via the Professional Planning Forum. Thank you very much.